Welcome to this presentation by Facilitators Research. This research is distributed exclusively for informational and educational purposes and does not constitute financial, legal, tax, or investment advice. For such services, you may reach out to speak to one of our officers.
Debt sponsor. Section 3.1. Scope. Debt sponsors shall be CBL-licensed securities dealers who are admitted as members of the MSM, CBL-licensed corporate advisors, banks, accountants, attorneys, and other professional advisors. A sponsor shall accept certain responsibilities as detailed hereunder. Section 3.2. Qualifications. Section 3.2.1. Qualifications. Sponsors shall apply and be admitted as members of the MSM before agreeing to discharge sponsoring responsibilities. Section 3.2.2. Qualifications. A sponsor can only be qualified if he/she has made an undertaking to the MSM that she/he agrees to discharge the responsibilities of advising at all times to the satisfaction of the MSM. Section 3.2.3. Qualifications. Notwithstanding Clause 3.2.2, a debt sponsor granted approval shall comply with the MSM debt listings rules. Section 3.2.4. Qualifications. Applications to become a debt sponsor shall be made to the MSM by submitting the debt sponsor application form in Appendix A. Section 3.3. Appointment. Section 3.3.1. Appointment. The applicant issuer shall appoint a debt sponsor when making an application for listing of debt securities or the registering a program memorandum. B. It wishes to submit documentation that requires approval by the MSM, and C. So requested by the MSM. Section 3.3.2. Appointment. The debt sponsor shall notify the MSM of its appointment by an applicant issuer. Where there are joint debt sponsors, the applicant issuer shall appoint a debt sponsor that will lead in the process. The MSM shall deal with the lead debt sponsor appointed in respect of the issue. Section 3.4. Responsibilities. Section 3.4.1. Responsibilities 1 of 3. A debt sponsor shall ensure that the applicant issuer is guided and advised as to the application of the debt listing rules. B. Provide to the MSM any information or explanation known to it in such form and within such time limit as the MSM may reasonably require for the purpose of verifying compliance with the debt listing rules by it or by an applicant issuer. C. Ensure that any announcements comply with the debt listing rules before submission to the MSM, and regulatory announcements shall appear on the MSM website. D. Use all reasonable endeavors to ensure that the applicant issuer complies with the debt listing rules. E. Manage the submission of all documentation to the MSM, and ensure its compliance with the MSM debt listing rules before submission is made. F. Carry out any activities which are requested by the MSM in respect of the application of the debt listing rules. Section 3.4.1. Responsibilities 2 of 3. G. Discharge its responsibilities with due honesty, integrity, care, and skill. H. Prior to the submission of any documentation that requires approval by the MSM, satisfy itself to the best of its knowledge and belief, having made due and careful inquiry of the applicant issuer, that there are no material issues, other than those disclosed in writing to the MSM, that should be taken into account by the MSM in considering the submission. 1. Advise the MSM immediately if they are aware or have reason to suspect that any of their debt sponsor clients have or may have breached the debt listing rules. And J. Be present at all discussions held between the MSM and the applicant issuer. Section 3.4.1. Responsibilities 3 of 3. Where MSM deems appropriate, it may communicate directly with an applicant issuer or with an advisor of the applicant issuer in order to discuss matters of principle and/or the interpretation of provisions of the debt listing rules. Where discussions take place in the absence of the debt sponsor, an applicant issuer shall ensure, as soon as is practicable, that the debt sponsor is informed, preferably in writing, of the matters discussed. Section 3.5. Annual compliance. Section 3.5.1. Annual compliance. Debt sponsors are required on an annual basis to advise the MSM whether they still meet the eligibility criteria and specifically, whether or not they continue to have the minimum number of approved executives as required by the MSM from time to time in their employ. Section 3.6. Breach of responsibilities. Section 3.6.1. Breach of responsibilities. If the MSM determines, after taking account of written representations, that a debt sponsor has breached any of its responsibilities under the debt listing rules, the MSM is entitled to take any one or more of the following actions. Censure the debt sponsor. B. Remove the debt sponsor from the register of debt sponsors maintained by the MSM. C. Impose a penalty not exceeding M1, 000 1 million Melody. D. Publish details of the action it has taken and the reasons for that action. Section 3.6.2. Breach of responsibilities. Where the MSM has decided to take any action described in paragraph 3.6.1b, the debt sponsor shall be entitled to request that the decision be taken on appeal in accordance with the provisions of paragraph 2.8.